This episode of Angles is brought to you by Richmond Vona Personal Injury Attorneys. Expect high-level communication, transparency, and cutting-edge technology to keep your case moving. Expect a legal team that's laser-focused and moves fast to get the results you deserve. When the unexpected happens, expect Richmond Vona. Learn more at richmondvona.com. 192 Seneca Street, Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Angles, the podcast where we dig into the stories behind impactful people and explore the sharp turns, daily decisions, and defining moments that shape how they got to where they are and how they keep moving forward. I'm John Richmond, and every week I sit down with guests who are building bold, meaningful lives and careers in Buffalo and beyond. If you enjoy these conversations, please hit follow, subscribe, drop a comment, or share the episode. It's a simple way to help us grow with the community and keep these stories coming. Today on Angles, I'm joined by Tom and Cloogie Barnett, father and son behind Tom Barnett, New York, one of the premier bespoke tailors in the country. What started in Buffalo has grown into an international business dressing NHL superstars, CEOs, and wedding grooms alike. Yet their story is rooted in something much deeper: family, tradition, and an obsessive attention to detail. We talk about the grind of entrepreneurship, building trust with clients, and how hockey has shaped both their business and their lives. Let's get into it. Today I have Tom and Cloogie Barnett joining me. Guys, how's it going?
Good, John. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I was super excited to talk to you guys. Obviously, known you for a bit now, and really interesting story. And we're going to kind of jump right into it. We have a lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about. Tom, I'd love to kind of just start off with you, and I'd love to kind of hear how you got into, your business, how it started, how you trained. I think it's a really interesting story that you've told me before, and I'd love to kind of hear you kind of walk us through it.
So I've always, I think a lot had to do with my father, first of all. So my dad was a really well-dressed guy, loved clothes, took impeccable care of his clothing, which I think he didn't tell me that he loved clothes. He just always looked great, right? And I also used to spend time with him when he'd get home from work. I'm one of 7 children, so to have a little bit of time with your dad, I would go upstairs when he was changing to get ready for the evening or the end when he'd come home from work. And everything went in its place, right? The tie got hung up and the shirts went into the laundry basket and the shoe trees went in the shoes and the tie got rolled up and the belt got rolled up. He recognized that everything had value, right? So he was big on all of that. And I noticed through that, obviously, that everything, he took great care of it. And obviously, it meant a lot to him. So my dad loved clothes, looked great in clothing, and he was also a hockey guy. He was an avid sportsman and a former athlete. So I think he certainly impacted or imprinted me in a lot of ways. So clothing, I always loved. And I myself and a partner took over a store in the 80s. And we had a lovely store that was doing very little volume. And we didn't have enough money to pay ourselves. And we wanted to work really hard and recreate this brand. And we did a great job by taking some of our clients, putting them in ads, changing the attitude of the place. And in the building, we had 2 floors. Clothing was downstairs, and upstairs we had shirts, ties, and accessories and so forth. We also had a little room in the back that had custom clothing, custom opportunities. So let's just say, John, you came in the store and you looked around and you saw what we had, and you maybe you got a pair of pants or you got a suit, but there's something else that maybe intrigued you. You could go into this little special room we had and you could create something you wanted. We would have swatches of things and we would make things for those clients that maybe they wanted pleats or no pleats, or they wanted a different color buttonhole or fun linings or whatever. Anyway, I thought that part was kind of fun, and it gave our customer an opportunity to do a lot of different things. Fast forward, the business had taken off and done really well. The building we were in had a fire, and that fire happened September of 1989. And when that happened, we had a lot of things to consider. Do we open up again? Do we do this again? And I wasn't sure I wanted to hang again $750,000 worth of inventory. I didn't think that was, you were waiting for people to come in the store. We had a successful business, but I really, really enjoyed the custom end of the business. So we took about 1.5 years to decide what we were going to do. And all along, I had been putting together a business plan on how I could jumpstart a bespoke business. So I did a little research, did some training. You ask about training, but I went through a lot of people that I had known over time, and they put me in touch with people that could help me understand how this business works. We went to London, looked at some things, and when we opened again in September of 1990, we wanted to do something different. We've always heard terms like made to measure and custom made. We don't do either one of those two things. We do bespoke suits. We make patterns for every one of our clients. And that to us is really important. So we started building this business. And years ago, when I started it, one of the things that we thought was kind of an interesting thing in 1990 was one, we are offering incredibly interesting and very beautiful clothing. But number two, the convenience factor was going to be something that we thought was important. So you could contact me and I would come see you at your office, in your home, and your country club or whatever. And that's how we began our relationships with clients. And then we eventually grew into what we're doing today, where we're servicing obviously other marketplaces and have a headquarters here, a flagship store here. So it's grown from humble beginnings into something quite different.
And Kluge, I mean, I'm hearing your dad talk about, kind of observing his father, growing up and how that led to where he is now. And of course, you're a huge part of the business now. Did you have a kind of a similar experience watching your dad, especially as a young guy, watching him grow the business?
Absolutely. And again, it's those conversations you grow up having at the dinner table, right? You learn about the ins and outs in the businesses and the good days and the bad days. But there's so much about, again, the care for things and things that mean something to you. And clothing has always had that place in our lives. So watching him grow the business, again, from where we were as kids to where it is today, it speaks volumes to what he's been able to accomplish. And it's just a blast to be a part of.
And I always tell people too, like I understand that, of course, like not everybody can afford to have bespoke suits or clothing made for them, but I do think that if you take pride in what you wear and you take care of your things, I mean, from a practical standpoint, they'll last longer. But I mean, really, too, I mean, you'll feel better. There's that saying, look good, feel good. And I don't think it always means that you have to spend a lot of money. It's making sure things fit right, that you're polished. And it just says something about you, whether it's you as just a person or you in business. Is that kind of something that you were learning from your dad as well, Tom, growing up? It's not just about putting things in the right place and looking good. There's more meaning to it.
Well, I think when you talk about budget, it's an important thing, right? People are going to put themselves in the neighborhood they want to live in and they can afford, and the same thing with their automobiles or whatever. I think having grown up my dad was a Marine, right? My dad was born in 1926. So you're talking about the generation that raised me. Those people were depression children and so forth. So dollars meant a great deal to them. And everyone was pretty tight and made sure that the pennies where they needed to go, where they needed to go. So I think I came from a family, both my mom's side and my dad's side, that appreciated and enjoyed nicer things. But they also recognized that if you had a great pair of shoes and had them resold and rehealed, those shoes should last you your lifetime. Instead of having a bunch of junk, how about having a couple of nice pieces? So when you're talking about maybe everyone is not in the bespoke world, it really makes sense to have some things that you can rely on and that you feel great in and that will last you a long time. We've always considered what we do investment clothing anyway. So I don't think people are frivolous. I think when people are earmarking, they're putting their wardrobe together, and people that we work with, they're pretty serious about what they put it together for. It's a huge part of their lives. So I think people carve out specifically we're a part of that, of their forward motion. So this is not just where people come in one day and they decide this is something we're going to do and I'm going to try something else tomorrow. We build, Kluge, I think you'd agree with this. We build relationships for life. I mean, the people that we work with are our friends. These are people. It's a very
Absolutely.
intimate business that we work. We are one-on-one in an appointment setting all of the time. So it's a tremendously gratifying thing to work with people and to help them achieve their goals. We're a big part of what they do.
Yeah. That's true too. I mean, anybody who's interacted with you, whether it's, at the shop or, we'll talk to, of course, all the great things you're doing in hockey. There's always this talk about your attention to detail. and how much time you and Kluge, I know your other son is also really involved too. How much attention to detail you guys have. Everyone feels special. Everyone feels important. Can you talk about kind of that approach and how it's helped you grow your brand over all these years?
I'm going to tell you a quick story, and Kluge can take a piece of this as well. So again, I go back to my dad. So we made for years my dad's clothing as well. So I would sit down with my dad and we would go through all the details, and I would ask him everything that I would ask any client at any point. Why we talk about buttons and threads and drape and shoulder pads and whatever the look is they're trying to achieve. I would do the same thing with my dad. Every time he'd get something new, we would go through every detail from belt loops to cuffs to zippers to whatever it is that makes a garment a garment. And my dad would always say at the end of it, "Do you ask everyone this all the time?" Yeah, Dad, we do. We want it to be exactly what they want it to be. So, Klugs, what are your thoughts about the detail of what we do?
It is what we do. Again, the details are incredibly important to us, but it's again everyone that comes in, whether you are getting married in October or you're going to the Super Bowl to play in it or whatever it may be, every single person gets the same experience and the same attention to detail and the same experience, I would say, because again, everyone gets treated the same and everyone loves that. So it's a special process for people to go through. And again, that story that you just told about our grandpa being like, "Do you really ask everybody this?" We talk about that all the time because people are literally like, "This is overwhelming. There's so many great details to put into a garment, but they all make a difference in the end." I think another important thing too is that, again, we'd never make two of the same garment. So once someone selects a fabric, that fabric is done. It gets a sticker on it that says one of one, never to be made again from our shop. So I think going through that experience and having something that's uniquely yours and no one else will have, what a great feeling.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear you guys talk, and obviously we're in very different businesses, but I think that there's a lot of commonalities in successful businesses or those aspiring to be successful. And attention to detail, whether it's a big client or like we say a big case or a small case, everyone needs that attention to detail. They deserve it. They need that unique experience. No two cases or no two, like you said, garments are the same. And I think people can really feel that. And I think that, over a long period of time, that's really what helps, grow a brand on top of obviously some other things. And, it's funny because with you guys are so successful. Everyone knows about your work with NHL players and you're involved in so much. I mean, you make custom suits, you make custom clothing. I mean, you name it, you guys can do it. Tom, especially when you started really growing the current business back in, like 1990 after the fire. People always say like overnight success takes a hell of a long time. And sometimes people just look at a business and say, "Oh, wow, this is amazing." But it takes so much time and energy and there's always a lot of twists and turns along the way. Can you talk about kind of like your approach to growing the business over all those years? I mean, you talked about jump starting, but there's obviously too like a lot of importance in staying steady and maintaining that consistent growth year over year. How do you kind of approach that, and how do you make decisions like, "Hey, we're going to open a place in New York or in Beverly Hills"? Like, how do you approach that?
So I think one thing is, I think probably anyone that knows me, I think consistency, perseverance are probably things that are incredibly, every day you have to get up and just chop wood, right? It's what you do. There are days that you wonder what was I thinking? Where am I going? I have to pay those bills. What? So there were times at the beginning of this business where you'd say, what the hell is going on? How is this going to happen? And there's days you wondered, right? But I am a guy that probably never goes away. So I would say that I was going to continue to make it happen no matter what. There were probably a lot of times where I thought maybe I should drive a cab for a living. Maybe I should do something else instead of doing what I'm currently doing. But you pound away at it, and you build trust with people. Also, I think importantly, and Klugie's last name and my name, we're on this building, we're on this business, we're in people's garments. It's important for it to be correct, right? So it's important for these people to do the best they can do and for us to do the best for them. Growing in other marketplaces, so this won't surprise you or anyone that listens to this. Buffalonians are pretty special people, and it's a pretty special place.
100%.
And we grew into New York City because there was a young man that went to New York to make his fame and fortune. He could not do what he did in Buffalo, New York. So he went to New York, became successful, and asked me a long time ago, would I need clothing? And I said, why don't I come to see you in New York? And we did. And he put together a list of individuals that were close to him, his sphere of influence, and he sent a note to each one of those people and said, my guy's going to come see you. I'd love you to go see him. Every single one of those clients came to see me, and every single one of those clients are still our clients. And this is 25 years later. So these clients, the interesting thing about this, what's most important to us is that we're a Buffalo brand. We're Buffalo people. And the people that have gotten us started in other marketplaces, Beverly Hills or Washington, D.C., or wherever we see clients, it's because of Buffalonians bringing us there, expats that had left our town and went to other cities to do what they needed to do, to be able to do what they were going to do. And the cool thing about Buffalonians, and this won't surprise anyone, Buffalonians are real people. So when they go to those cities, those people become part of the fabric of that community. People trust them. They like them. And when they say, come and see Tom, they said, absolutely. If he's like you, I'm in. So over the years, we grew absolutely because of Buffalonians. But our best market, our number one market, and the market we love is Buffalo.
That's
this
awesome.
is where we were born and raised, and this is who embraces us, and we embrace them.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk out there, and for those people who've never been to Buffalo, I think they might not totally understand, but once they're here, they're like, wow, people here are special. It really is a special place. There's so many amazing people here in Buffalo. Honestly, that's why I wanted to start the podcast, because I was like, I feel like we don't get enough love, and there's a lot of amazing people like the two of you who are doing great things, but then understand where they came from and attribute a lot of their success to the fact that they started their business here. So Cloogie, growing up with your dad, did you know from the beginning that you would eventually want to join the business, or was it kind of a progression? I think, sometimes and I could say this myself, right? My dad is a masonry contractor, and, I never really thought about going to work with him. Maybe I should have, but, even though I love what I do, but did you always know, growing up that you wanted to work with your dad, or how did you kind of approach that, and how'd you kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think my dad can attest that I've always loved clothes. That's definitely in our blood. But again, I went to Elon University. I got a finance degree. I had a great internship my junior year summer with Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger on their T23 marketing group. And I got to see a lot of ins and outs on another side of that fashion world and applying some of my finance degree to that. And it was great knowledge to have. But after graduation, I was weighing a couple options. And that's actually when we purchased this building that we are in now. So again, my dad was working down the street in our Suite 9, which we operated out of beforehand. And again, he's still seeing clients every day. He needed someone to kind of guide the vision of what this building could be. So that's when Oliver and I stepped in and helped design what we're in today. And then next thing you know, it's 7 years later and I'm still here. So it is pretty special. It also, I think, growing up, you get to see the brand and its evolution. But it's pretty crazy from what it was and to what it's turned into, right? So I think the hard work and perseverance and, again, passion that my father has is why we are where we are today. And then, again, Oliver and I tried to inject some youthful blood into it and take it to the next level. It's pretty neat to be where we are.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, look, like, again, it's... a lot of kids or younger guys and women, like, they go off and they think, oh, I just want to do something different. And then sometimes maybe they realize a little bit too late in life that, wow, it would have been so amazing to work with my mom or my dad if I had that opportunity, and to, take everything that in your situation that my dad has built and say, how can I help you? And how can we together, continue to evolve the business? Tom, from your standpoint, how has Cloogie and Oliver's, kind of, I guess, joining the company impacted the vision and kind of where you guys are set off, or where you are today and where you're set to go?
It's a really, really good question. So one of the things that Cloogie was kind of getting to too, the business has grown substantially over the years. It's exponentially grown, right? Multiple times. And we have what in this point is an absolute international reach. We have people all over the world that we dress. We have people from, you can name the country, and we probably have clients there. And we've grown, and it needs energy, and it needs talent, and it needs vision. And both Cloogie and Oliver have brought that, which is amazing. So I think when you look at where we started, the humble beginnings, into where we are today, I'm so grateful for the fact that we have so much, I guess, Kloogie's vision and his energy and Oliver's talents and his artistic talents. They're incredible. These are things, they're better educated than their dad. They're smarter than their dad, and they've got great vision on where the next steps would go. So injecting the next thing into what we're doing makes great sense. Could I have sat back and watched this kind of plateau at some point? But these guys have been able to take it to a completely different level, and they're injecting things that I would have never considered.
When you're growing the business like that, you talk about exponential growth, and this is something that we've experienced at our firm, is like you grow really quickly and it's exciting, but then you realize, hey, look, like, oh my gosh, like we broke this system or we broke this process. And at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're continuing to offer that super high level of service, no matter how many people are coming in the door. How do you approach that from like a scalability standpoint? Like, how do you ensure, when all of a sudden that phone rings or you're getting web form submissions and like, oh my gosh, there's so many people lining up to come see us. How do you ensure that you get to everybody in a timely manner and then you continue to offer that same level of service?
So Cloogie being the next generation, I'm going to let him take that piece of this. But one of the nice things that we've always done, much like your business, John, is that our front door is always locked and we do everything by appointment, so that we do not want people feeling like their time is eclipsed or they're getting chased out. We want to give everyone the time that they desire, but it does need to be scaled. So I'm going to let Cloogie take this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, the most important thing is you have to have processes in place so that no one gets left behind. Every, T is crossed, your I's are dotted. But there's obviously been a massive influx of customers reaching out, people from all over the world. And we've had, again, social media has been a big part of that, right? So there's a recent wedding that we dressed. The groom was JT Barnett and his wife is Sammy Clark, who runs Form Fitness. And he had this great idea to put letters on the inside of his coat of all of the love letters that she ever wrote him. We scanned them, we printed it on silk, and what became of that is something we probably never imagined. He posted an Instagram reel revealing that garment to her, and obviously the emotional moment that was. And next thing you know, through different outlets of his channels, her channels, and others that have picked it up, the video's got 25 million views now. So what happens? Well, your website probably gets hit a few more times. Your Instagram DMs are flooded. So you have to have systems in place to be able to accommodate that. Whether people need phone calls or whatever it may be, we've done a nice job kind of growing with it, but you need to stay on top of things. There's not a lot of time off, especially, again, your name's on the business, our name's on our business. You need to be responsible and respectful of people's time. So our job is just to stay on top of things as best we can and, give people the time they deserve.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And another way to scale it, John, is we just never sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
again,
there's no substitute.
Entrepreneurship, again, there is really no off switch, right? You go home, you think about it. There's people that have access to our phones 24/7. So there's a balance to it. But that is, again, when you're digging ditches every day and chopping wood, you got to just keep chopping.
Yeah, there's something beautiful to the grind, like, to getting
Absolutely.
in there and doing whatever it takes, no matter what happens, to build the business, to whether it's your employees or your customers, to knowing, to just having it in the front of your mind, like, these people are relying on me. We're not going to let them down. And it's really interesting too, sometimes I have people that say like, oh, I'm thinking about starting this business. Like, what do you think? And I'm always like, well, look, the one thing I'll say is when your back's up against a corner and your name's on the line, it's amazing what you can do. We're all capable of a lot more than maybe we even realize. You guys have both talked about, and obviously having all these international customers, and of course, I would be remiss not to mention the fact that you guys make suits for some of the best NHL stars out there across the world, from Ovechkin to guys on the Sabres. Tom, how did that all start, and how did that evolve? And then I'd love to have Cloogie kind of jump in and talk about his role in that today.
So again, a really interesting thing. So we make amazing, lovely, incredibly handmade garments, right? So our clients love that. And uh, with the NHL, guys more and more have appreciated fashion. And of course, there's the walk-in shots, and that culture has grown over the years. But interestingly enough, my first NHL relationship was not with a player, but with a team owner. So Seymour Knox, that was the founder and owner of the Buffalo Sabres that brought the Buffalo Sabre expansion franchise here in 1970, was an absolute legend and an absolutely the most lovely man. I was privileged, honored to ever even know him and work with him. And I used to make his clothing, including his Hall of Fame coat for the Hockey Hall of Fame and so forth. Loved him. His son and his grandson are continue to be friends of ours today. They're lovely, lovely people. So my initial foray into the NHL world was not players, but actually the ownership, which was an interesting place to start at the top and then
Yeah.
work backwards. But so over time, we make beautiful things. And the culture of the NHL, of those walk-in images, were a big part of that. And fashion's become a huge part of it. So, Klugs, what are your thoughts about how we've gone from, what we've done to where athletes across the world rely on us?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the product. They wouldn't be coming here if they didn't trust the product. I think there's maybe a push in this industry on quantity over quality, right? People want to just get as many garments they can, as many guys, but at the end of the day, if you sell quality products, they'll find you. And I think a lot of guys trust what we bring to market and trust their garments. And also, we've got more fabrics than we probably know what to do with. So every guy that's got an idea, I remember, again, last season, JJ Peterka, he wanted to wear a special suit to their game, their international game in Munich, his hometown. So he found a white suit with a blue pinstripe, limited edition cloth from Cacciopoli in Italy. And he put his logo on the inside, and it was a special. We had a patch for the International Series games on the inside of his coat. But there's just details that we can pull off that guys really appreciate. But I also think that there's a great trust that we have with our clients, athletes aside. There's a great trust person to person. And I think people come in these four walls and they can be themselves, and it's comfortable, and there's no one really bothering them. The door is locked. So they can kind of relax and do their thing, whether they're shopping with their wife or girlfriend or just themselves. Or again, how many guys come in here with their friends from Finland when they're in town? Like, this is a great stop for them, both local guys, or again, if there's a team playing the Sabres, guys will Uber into the store, and this will be again, hey, I've been looking forward to my trip to Buffalo to be able to do this. So I also think countrymen stand together. If a guy's a Finnish guy and another is countryman's on his same team, he'll say, hey, where do you get your clothes? There's a great trust between that as well. So a great referral business. But I also think, people can get clothes a lot of different places, right? But probably not at this level. So we've had guys that have gotten clothes all over the world. But we had a guy in a Buffalo Sabre in recently, and he was doing his fit garment, a basted garment for his wedding. And during the process, he just stopped and said, this really is different. The fit, the feeling, the fitting, this is just different. This is not what I'm used to. This is incredible. So I think that speaks to what we're bringing to market.
Yeah, so it's not just, what Kloogie's talking about when we have players Uber in, or they'll find their way here at some point while they're in town to play the Sabres. This is a stop for a lot of guys, just like it is people looking for chicken wings or other things in town. This becomes a stop for guys. Kind of interesting.
You mentioned making like Seymour Knox's Hall of Fame jacket. I would be crazy not to ask you about making Ovechkin's jacket, or I think his suit that he was wearing when he passed Gretzky's goal scoring record this year. Can you talk a little bit about that? We'll be right back after a word from our partners.
After an accident, life can be scary, stressful, tricky. You need Richmond Bona to help navigate the process, because getting a life-changing settlement can not only take time, it can take an emotional toll. The team at Richmond Bona provides high levels of support through all the ins and outs, so you get the settlement you need and the new beginning you deserve.
When the unexpected happens,
expect Richmond Bona.
Now back to the conversation.
Well, that was a pretty special project. to work on, and we had this record was going to be broken at some point by Ovi, and we've been working with Ovi for quite some time, and many of his Capitals teammates over more than a decade probably, and so this was going to come. Cloogie, myself, his brother Oliver, and young Jack Knox, Seymour's grandson and son, we went up to the Four Nations Cup up in Montreal, watched some great hockey up there, and immediately after that tournament in February, Ovi goes on a tear. Next thing you know, that record's right around the corner. We had this thing sort of half moving through the process, and we finally said, "Oh my gosh, we better get this thing going." We had some amazing. Oliver is an incredible designer and had incredible vision on what to do on it. So for anyone that has not seen it, you could certainly find it on our Instagram. I believe it's on. But all of his special goals are represented on the inside of the garment. There's a game-worn jersey sewn into the sleeves. There's a special patch. Everything is sewn in with yellow threads that kind of mimic his yellow laces for his skates. It's pretty special. Klug's had the opportunity. I think Cloogie first met Ovi maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we were down at their facility. And Klug's, what are your thoughts about the Ovi thing? I know it was fun for you and Oliver.
It's a pretty crazy or surreal moment when you're in the locker room and he just comes over and needs his gear. And it was the first time I had met him. But again, I'm now 29 years old. I've watched this guy for the past 20 years. He was a childhood guy. You turn on the TV on Sunday afternoon and he's playing against Crosby. And again, they had those dueling hat trick games and everything you watched growing up. And then next thing you know, he's giving you a fist bump and say, "Let's fucking do this." And next thing you know, you're going through fabrics with him. It's just a surreal moment. But he's got a great appreciation for what we do. So to bring anything to life that he can dream up is a cool feeling. And then you see the pictures of him, again, especially that 895 suit. And he's sitting on a throne of pucks, flashing the lining with all the pucks, and it's like, it's a pinch me moment almost, right? Yeah. So we'll look back on that one day. It's pretty surreal.
It's amazing. And Kluge, as a former hockey player myself, I know that I would be even though these guys are all amazing guys, they're down to earth. I played with a lot of guys who played in the NHL. When the starstruckness, if that's even a word, wears off, I got to imagine it's pretty awesome being able to be around guys that are that successful, that are that skilled at their craft. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. I got to imagine you've learned some stuff from these guys, whether it's about, how to approach your day or discipline or just maybe some things that have rubbed off on you, kind of how has that experience been, just generally getting a chance to spend time with these guys and learn kind of how they got to where they are?
Absolutely. And again, as you noted, at the end of the day, they are great people, and I think that makes a huge difference. They're so down to earth, but at the same time, again, being around the sport, I think, has been super helpful too. We've grown up in hockey. Obviously, my dad's been involved in a million different ways in the game. So when guys come in after a win or a loss, you talk about hockey, or you talk about the ups and downs, because it's pretty relatable industry to industry, right? You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but how they speak to them, again, if Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen's in here, right, and he's the goaltender for the Sabres, maybe he has a great game or maybe he has an off night, but the conversations you can have about that, and again, guys are all within our age range, right? So you can kind of speak to them man to man, and you've got a lot of similarities in lifestyle and so forth. It's fun to kind of pick their brains, but it's been a lot of fun to get to know a lot of great people from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different parts of the world. Again, I think about guys that have come through the Sabres system, like Lawrence Pilot was a great friend. Again, 2 years ago, after his career ended with the Sabres, I had dinner with him in Switzerland when he was playing in Lausanne. It's pretty special, the relationships that cultivate in these four walls that lead not only to great clothing moments, but to also great friendships.
Yeah, it's about also trust, right?
Yeah, I think trust is critical, by the way. That's a great point, John. And you know that, having grown up in locker rooms yourself, that the circle of trust is important. But I think the other thing, it's really interesting to see, we work with so many guys around the league, and it's interesting to see them at their youngest days from the draft on, how they mature from kids, 18-year-old kids, into grown men. And it's interesting to see that process, how they physically change, mentally change. But I think one of the things that you pick up on more than anything is how they've got a mental set. They've got a mindset that when it comes to negativity and things that are just going to be blocking the path forward, it's just they blow by that. They're always looking at more positive. They look at things in a different way, and they're goal oriented, and they do what they need to do to get there in a positive way. I think that's a great thing for anyone to relate to or to learn from.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, it's like you got to set these goals, draw up your roadmap on how you're going to get there. Understand it's going to be a tough road, and you got to block out the noise.
Yes.
Blocking out the noise is huge. There's going to be so many people who try to derail you, try to tell you can't do it. There's going to be obstacles. You just got to keep moving forward. And I think that's something that we can all learn from those guys, or, anybody who's, like you two as well. Like it's a super important lesson. So the two of you working together, I got to imagine, as well as you guys get together, at times there's differences of opinion, we'll call them. How do you guys tackle those and kind of work through them? I think it's something that a lot of people could benefit from learning from, especially when they're in like a family-run business.
So I'm going to say that the deal is I just let Cloogie win every time. That's just
Kloogie's like, no, I'm just better at arguing.
Maybe.
All right, so I would answer it this way. I think that we have I'm like you, John. I grew up in the hockey world. There's no greater place in the world than being in the locker room with the guys you play with or coach with, the team that you're coaching. It's special. I love it. It's a huge part of my life. I think our family is very much a team like that. So we've always had a close, tight family. I think that's an important thing. I think also because of us growing up as closely as we did, sharing conversations, thoughts, beliefs, philosophies, principles, ethics, morals, whatever that makes the package, the components that create us. I think all of that stuff's been discussed ad nauseum in our life forever, right? So when we're sitting down and having discussions about our business, I believe that we respectfully share opinions. And I think that if Oliver and Cloogie have an idea in terms of we're going to take a right here in this business day, and we're going to go over a bridge, and we're going to circle back and do something new. You know what I usually say? Great. Cool. Let's do it. I believe in them. I trust them. I think they have the best intentions. So I think when it comes to really important decisions, I don't think we have a lot of friction. Maybe I'm wrong, Cloogs. You tell me.
No, I'd say it's pretty accurate. I think anyone that knows us can attest we're a pretty tight-knit family. And again, we've all grown up in this. So it's not like an outsider just joined and don't know what direction we're going in. We're all on the same page frequently or most often. And I would say, again, there is a great trust when, Oliver and I have an idea or, again, an avenue we want to explore. We've got a blessing pretty quickly from our father, which is pretty special.
Yeah, it's cool too. There's a lot of talk about, there's like a saying, there's two-way doors and then like the one-way door, where if you make a decision, you go through the one-way door, there's no going back. But most decisions are those two-way doors. So even if, it's good that you guys have that trust in one another. And I'm sure, it's okay if something doesn't work out, you can always kind of learn from it and then go back through the door and kind of, revisit everything.
I think importantly is that we understand the number one thing here, which is nurturing this business so we can continue to do what we do and take care of our clients. So ultimately, this is never about me or about Cloogie or Oliver or his mom, Lisa. This is about making this business the best it can be. So I think our ultimate goals are always very pure in that regard. We're trying to make this thing be the best it can be and run as smoothly as possible. So that's our goal.
Yeah, it's like, what you're saying actually is like a great business lesson for everybody. It's whether you're a family business or not, you have to be aligned. You have to have the same values, have the belief in the same mission and that same vision. And if you're aligned the entire way, that's ultimately what leads to success. And you got to have people that are on board with that, whether they're your family members or not.
Yes. And also I can tell you that anyone that knows me, I'm not a huge fan on politics and social pressures and so forth. So I think we don't even entertain those things. When it comes time to making decisions for this business, it's about making the right decision to make this thing all cylinders work.
Right. It's awesome. So we've talked a lot about hockey, and I would love to have you, Tom, start off, and I'm sure Cloogie you can jump into. I'd love to hear you talk about the Buffalo Shamrocks. This is an organization that I learned about, and honestly, I met you without even knowing about the Shamrocks, because I was new to the city. Our mutual friend Tom Amadeo, who's also involved, started telling me about the Shamrocks, and to this day, just glowing reviews. But you have a really different approach to that organization, and I'd love for you to talk about that.
So Tom Amadeo, first of all, is a board member, and he is obviously a good friend of yours, and he's a lovely guy. He's also got a great sense of humor.
Oh, he's gonna
But
love that we're talking about him. I didn't.
so Tom,
You might need to cut this.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom digs ditches, and he works really hard, and he's a great, tremendous leader in our program. So, and he believes in what we do and nurtures it and makes it better. So he's a great value to our organization. But the hockey thing was, I like you, John, I grew up playing hockey. My dad played hockey in college and beyond. And my dad played a lot of sports, but hockey was always kind of a special one. I grew up playing hockey. My brothers, everyone played hockey. We always had a hockey rink in our backyard. Loved the game. I played through college. After college, I took a little bit of time off because I had almost been burnt out by the sport. And I started playing again, and I got involved again. And I was also playing with an alumni group here every Wednesday night. And we played every Wednesday night. And as you're a young man just out of college, your focus is on whatever it is, right? Your career, your life, goofing around, whatever you do. And on Wednesday nights, I was playing with a lot of friends, a lot of good hockey players. And on Wednesday nights, as you know, being in locker rooms, the conversation that started last week is the same locker room conversation the next week, and the next you're talking about whatever you're talking about. As we got older, guys were getting married. Guys were then having children. Guys were then doing what you do when you have children. You start introducing them to things that are important to you. So I started hearing about their kids playing hockey, and I started hearing about things that parents coming out of the stands and beating up referees or drinking heavily in the parking lot before a Sunday morning game or whatever the crazy stuff that was going on, or 8-year-olds being yelled at by adults or grandparents. And every day was, what happened to the game I loved? What happened in the time when I was a kid to where it is today? So fast forward to, I got married, I had children, and I took Oliver, or at the time he was maybe 3.5 years old. I took him to a hockey program, and the coach seemed insane, but it was certifiable later when he asked me to be on the ice to help him, and he dropped an F-bomb 4 times in the first 5 minutes of a learn to skate practice. And it got worse from there. So I decided after a year of being disturbed by it all, I kept noticing the best and the brightest people weren't returning on a Tuesday night for practice. They weren't coming. So we began to think about maybe there's a better way to do this. So one of the things we wanted to do was to kind of think about what inspired John Richmond and Tom Barnett and others to play the game as a kid. Why can't we be kids again? Why can't we bring back a traditional model where it's about kids, not about the sponsor, not about winning a Stanley Cup by the time you're 7 years old or getting a college scholarship by the time you're 8? How about the perspective of enjoying it and overcoming obstacles and becoming the best you can be at a sport or anything? So I started the Buffalo Shamrocks in 2001 based on a couple of things: sportsmanship, team play, personal responsibility. And later on, we've added positive, competitive, team first. So we have a great foundation and a great perspective, and it started with a few kids and turned into a lot of kids, and it's been quite a legacy. So Kloogs was an original Shamrock himself in 2001 at 4 years old or 5 or whatever you were.
Yeah, Cloogie, what's been your perspective on the growth of the organization, and what do you think sets it apart from, maybe the more traditional, as we've seen now, hyper competitive model?
Absolutely. So again, I was lucky enough to be an original Shamrock back in 2001 with, I think, maybe 27 or 28 other families. And now, again, how many families have graduated through that program? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So it's remarkable to see, again, even from 2001 to probably 2011 when I graduated, the growth of the program to even where it is now, about to enter their 25th year. It's pretty remarkable. But I also think it speaks to, my dad's core of beliefs and not wavering from them in the face of, maybe people will want to do this or a coach wants to go in this direction. Having a structure for people to belong to, and kind of the bowling with bumpers, like, hey, let's stay in the guardrails here and let's believe in what we believe in and not waver.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I mean, I think like, it's funny. Like I talk to friends now and some of them have kids that play really competitive hockey and it's nuts. It seems like every year at an earlier and earlier age, like these kids are being forced to do so much, like they can't come up for breath. And a lot of the focus gets away from where it should be. And like you said, sportsmanship, like what is it like to be a member of a team, and to contribute and to feel that success that comes from being part of something bigger than yourself. There's a lot of honesty in the game too, and a lot of ownership. Tom, I mean, look, there's not a lot of hockey organizations like that. And you guys have good players and these players are treated really, really, really well. I mean, I've seen your guys' jerseys and I know, I'm like, okay, I know who made those. But I mean, these kids feel special and they're learning a lot, whether they go on to play college or not. I mean, I got to imagine you got a little bit of pushback about that, maybe even early on, because it's just such a different model.
So it's a great observation there. So one of the things that people mistakenly, or their perspective may be off, that somehow the Shamrocks have just a bunch of kids that can't play or they can't compete or they can't make another team elsewhere. Well, guess what? We'll probably have, I don't know, 4 or 5 kids that are Shamrocks in Division I college hockey this year, right? So all of our kids make their high school teams. All of our kids can play. What we wanted to do, we have very, very competitive teams. We also have an opportunity for kids to learn how to play the game. So we have different levels that allows a kid to be in the classroom where they can best achieve, which we think is really an important thing. And no matter where, if you're playing at our most competitive teams, you're still a Shamrock. We're still, like Cloogie said, we're still doing things the way we do it. There's not special exemptions. We're doing what we do. And was there pushback? Hell yeah. So we attempted to become part of USA Hockey in our early years 5 times over the course of 2.5 years, where they said no. Now, of course, we've graduated into becoming more of a poster boy for USA Hockey, and they want more of this around the country. They want more perspective. They want more opportunity for kids to actually become part of something. And John, you may remember this. As a kid growing up in whatever community one grows up in, if one grew up, say, around here in Amherst or in Buffalo or whatever, you played for Amherst Youth Hockey, or you played in Tonawanda, or you played in Buffalo. Now everyone plays for another team every other year, and there's no residence requirements. But you look at models that are incredibly successful. Finland, Sweden, where everyone stays in their programs until it's time to go to national teams. They get better and better, and they bloom like flowers in a hothouse. It's what we do. We're just doing a different model. Anyway, years later, we became part of USA Hockey, and we couldn't be having more fun. Let me put it that way.
Cloogie is, I think you said you're 29 years old, like you're playing a huge role in the business. At least I know, it took me probably till around that age to start to really understand the lessons that I learned as a hockey player and being part of great organizations, having great coaches that helped me, in my professional life. As you sit here today, what do you think are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned growing up playing hockey?
It's a great question, because I think, again, having that background in team sports, it gives you the opportunity. You've got to rely on your teammates, right? And they also need to be able to rely on you. So every day there's people in this industry relying on us. Our customers rely on us for us to deliver. Your line mates ask for you to deliver back when you're growing up playing sports. But there's a lot of great lessons you can learn playing youth sports. But I think that positive mindset is a great one to learn and great one to be able to harness, because negativity can creep in all the time if you let it.
So somebody asked me this question probably like, maybe the first time I ever heard this question was like 10 years ago. And I had difficulty at times answering it, because it's like you just become this person like through playing hockey, and you're learning these lessons from whether it's your dad or other coaches or other teammates. And sometimes, if you're lucky, other parents who are of the same mindset. And you kind of just like, it all kind of gets bundled into you, and it takes some time to figure out like, oh, I got this from this lesson, or this from this coach, or this from this person. But I think everything you're saying makes sense. It's like, being able to rely on other people. And at the end of the day, right, it's all about accountability. Like you want to be somebody that they can really rely on, especially when times are tough.
Absolutely. You want to be able to deliver for everyone. So that's what we aim to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing, I know this sounds almost trite, but the one thing that, because everything has gotten so hyper competitive and the objective of signing a $250 million contract over the course of 10 years, whatever. People's perspective are a little off. How about learning how to stop or turn or skate backwards first? But I think the thing that might be really most important is it should be fun. Like, come to the rink and have a blast. The coaches should have fun. Tom Amadeo has fun. Our coaches have fun. I think the rest of it, if you focus on the right stuff happens.
Yeah, for sure. And like, that's again, like whether it's in sports or business, right? It's like they always say, like, if you follow your passion, if it's something that you really love and that is fun to you, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. I mean, fun things are hard, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what makes them fun. But yeah, it's just like, it's both great advice from both of you. And I think whether, obviously we're all very biased in, here when it comes to hockey, but any real team sport, right? It's like having those opportunities, especially at a young age, and making sure these kids are having fun. It's like, look, if the kid's having a great time and the kid wants to go out and shoot 200 pucks at night and wants to skate every day of the week, all throughout the year, that's awesome. Like, that's great. But if he or she doesn't want to do it, like, maybe you should allow them to follow some other, follow up on some other things that can make them happier,
You look at, we have developed, and there's been a critical mass of girls.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Hockey, it's incredible. So we were just in Denver at USA Hockey, and they shared with us that there's 98,500-ish girls registered in the United States. They're believing this year with hockey for this coming fall, it may be the first time there'll be 100,000 girls playing hockey in the United States. Incredible. We have seen that same thing develop. We have an absolutely passionate girls base. We also have an incredibly high retention rate. Our retention rate for girls over the last 3 years, 100%. So can you imagine when do you get 100% of anything ever for anything?
Never.
So the girls thing is incredible, but they're also having a blast. They're having so much fun together, and they're building something together. So it's everything about the definition of sport. It's happening under our umbrella.
That's amazing. And nice segue you set up for me, because I think I know why you're in Denver. And, you mentioned that in the beginning with the Shamrocks, there was some resistance and you had some trouble getting into the USA Hockey. But I think it's safe to say now that, obviously USA Hockey looks upon your organization and you, Tom, very fondly and for good reason. I know you recently received the William Thayer Tutt Award. And I know you don't love talking about this stuff all the time. You're a humble guy, but I'd love to hear you kind of talk about what that award is and what it meant to you and your family and to the Shamrocks.
Thank you for bringing that up. I can tell you that, and I know this, again, I don't want to sound trite or falsely humble or whatever, but I never, ever considered, when I started the program and with some really great mates, some good friends, we started this program in 2001. The last thing you ever thought about, if I work hard enough, I'm going to win an Oscar. I'm going to win an Emmy or a Tony Award. It's never even on the agenda. I didn't even know there was an award. I was doing it because I wanted to do it for Western New York, for my kids, for families. I just thought it was the right thing to do. And USA Hockey, as I said, weren't really early on here in the west section of New York State. They had other ideas. They didn't really want us to be a part of that. And but they also probably recognized sooner or later that once they got to know me, that I was never, ever going to stop knocking on the door, right? I was never going to not be there. So when we finally became members, we just continued to grow and continued doing what we did. Anyway, fast forward to sometime in early April, Cloogie and I were working with a client. And if I'm with a client and we're in a client meeting, I can tell on my Apple Watch, and I can tell by the phone in my pocket that the phone may be ringing or it may be beeping or vibrating. I never pick up. My phone was ringing, and Cloogie and I were with a client, and the client at that moment had to get up and move into another room briefly. And at that moment, I grabbed the phone and I looked and it said Colorado Springs. So I don't get a lot of calls from Colorado Springs, recognizing it as the home of USA Hockey. I said to Cloogie, maybe I better pick this one up. I kind of skedaddled out into a hallway, picked it up, and the fellow introduced himself as Pat Kelleher, who's the executive director of USA Hockey. And he introduced himself, and he had suggested to me that they had done a lot of research and done a lot of looking into what was happening in Western New York and what the Shamrocks were doing. And they did a lot of research. And they knew a little bit more about the program than maybe I even knew. So it was pretty flattering that they had done so much work. And he still didn't tell me why he was calling, but he let me know that his dad had coached mite hockey in Massachusetts for 40 years. And that his dad was honored and recognized with the William Thayer Tutt Award, which is the most prestigious, highest honor that USA Hockey presents at the President's Dinner. And he said it's a very meaningful award to myself and to my family because his dad had since passed. And I want to let you know that we have selected you to be the William Thayer Tutt Award. I was like, wow, I was flabbergasted. It was also so emotional for him because of what it meant to him. So having the executive director tell you that story, and I then hung up the phone after that. We spoke a little bit further, but I hung up, went back and worked the rest of the day. And I remember at the end of the day saying, did I get a call today from USA? Is that real? Then they followed up with calls, and they brought our family out to Denver, and we had a magnificent time. It was incredible.
Cloogie, did you go out there too?
I did. It was a pretty sweet event. Really cool to meet all the faces behind USA Hockey too. And again, USA Hockey's on a meteoric rise right now too. Again, they won World Juniors this year. Obviously competed very strongly in the Four Nations Cup. They won the World Championships with Buffalo's own Tage Thompson winning it in overtime. Yep. But they've had such a great year. So to be there with all the positivity that was surrounding the program at the time and meeting everyone, and also getting to watch him accept the award and give a great speech, it was pretty special.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, like I know you don't do it for the awards, but it's such a great accomplishment. It's great. Not, you deserve it, but it's also great, for the organization, right? It brings a spotlight onto all these kids who deserve it, and all the coaches and the players and the parents, everybody involved. I think it's really awesome.
That to me was the best part about it. It validates everything we've worked on, right? And all the families that have persevered and gone through the program. And the early years where we didn't have enough kids to even form a full mite team or squirt team, all those people, to me, it was a pat on their back for making this happen. Also, when he called me and told me about this, I was aware of the award because I'm a USA Hockey Association president. I get all the emails. I see all of that. But when he called and told me that I was going to be the one recognized with this most prestigious award, I was flabbergasted, but more so because it's always been, when you look at the results of these things that happen every year, it's always someone from Massachusetts or Michigan or Minnesota that win these awards. So it's kind of cool that a national award like this comes home to our home in Buffalo, New York. It's pretty cool.
Again, Buffalo, a lot of amazing people, and I love when Buffalonians get the recognition. So
yes.
So I have one last question for each of you, and I like to switch it up a little bit at the end of each episode. So I'll start with you, Cloogie, and I guess Tom, you're getting the benefit of knowing you're getting the same question. I'll give you
said there'd be no math on this, John.
There's no math. I trust me, I don't do math. We have people that do that. People a lot smarter than me. All right, Cloogie. So if you have the opportunity to have one person, dead or alive, come into the shop, and you get to spend that time with them, that door locked, and make them a bespoke article of clothing, let's say a suit, who would it be and why?
That's a really good question. Let me think here. Oh boy. Dad, you're lucky to go second here. That is...
Well, I'll tell you what. If you want me to go...
Tom, you can jump in if you want.
Yeah, you go.
Let me think about it.
My brain.
Chat GPT, let's go.
Let me get my phone out here.
If I could do it all over again, I'd have my dad come in.
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so that was quick, Cloogie. I mean, you're back on the clock.
You couldn't elaborate it a little further, gone on a little longer?
I think redoing it. No, go ahead.
No, I think that'd be really cool too. I think also he wasn't around to see the new shop that we have now. My grandma, my dad's mom, was around to be able to see the beginnings of what this building turned into, and I thought that was so special. But I don't disagree. Having him be able to see what this has turned into would be pretty special. And I also, again, I think back to when I first joined, and even a couple years into it, the hard work that my dad put in to build this is pretty remarkable. And I found myself actually at the NFL Honors 2 years ago in Las Vegas, walking in, and I was like, am I really here right now? did the running around that my dad did to go see people in East Aurora or Hamburg or wherever the hell they were, how did it lead me here? So for family members and extended family and grandparents to be able to see what we've built here would be pretty special.
That's awesome. I love that answer. And look, I appreciate both of you being here. I mean, you guys deserve all the success that you've gotten and that you're obviously going to achieve going forward. You're good people. You work hard, and I appreciate you being on today and sharing your stories. I know people are going to get a lot out of it.
Thank
you,
you,
John.
us.
I
Thanks,
think
guys.
this is a joy to do, and I'm, speaking about what we love to do. I love being at hockey. I love doing what I'm doing every day, and having a chance to share it with you and your audience and my family, pretty special. So thanks for having us.
For sure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Angles. If this episode made you think, smile, or see something in a new way, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review and share it with friends. You can also follow us on social media. Angles is produced by Brett Tuttle. I'm John Richmond. See you next time.